the stretch to the edge. What a hurl by Jackson! Highlight reel touchdown! The season is going to be Louisville and Pro. Louisville, national champion.
Hello again, everybody. I am Kyle, your host tonight, joined by co-hosts Patrick and Ross, and we are back with another episode of the Third Banner Pod. And, well, we have a lot to talk about tonight. We were going to lead with basketball due to it beginning with the exhibition win. We will get to that, but the timing of news dictates the direction of the pod. And as of about an hour ago, we had started to hear, actually about a couple hours ago, we started hearing whispers that Colin Lacy was going to elect to sit out the remainder of the season. We were waiting on any confirmation of that, and then I saw where Jody Demling, I'm not sure if he's the first one that broke it, but that's who I saw break it on Twitter, that Colin Lacy has elected to sit out the remainder of the season. And now I've seen where there is a possibility that he could return to Louisville next season, where he wants a full season, hopefully a full bill of health, to be able to go out there and show us what he can do and hopefully have future NFL aspirations. But we'll get to that. We'll get to everybody's opinion on that. I kind of came in hot with that just to say, we kind of changed up some things, but I always want to know how you boys are doing.
Obviously been better. I mean, the Colin Lacy news is not great. We've seen him the past couple of games starting to make his emergence felt. Tyler Shuck starting to become more comfortable with him. And then this news out of nowhere. Consider me very, very skeptical that just me, this feels very reminiscent of the year when Tutu and Javian sat out for the remainder of the year. It was damn near about the same time. So I don't know, man. I'm not going to hold my breath. It is what it is.
One distinction there, and I'm not saying I understand any skepticism because it's a very risky thing to hope a guy returns next year. He has plenty of options with the new portal rules. He could go pro, he could transfer, but he is a unique case where he has not played more than 4 games, so he has not exceeded his red shirt. Now, like Javian and Tutu, I know they just elected to sit out after playing several games, so they were totally focused on going NFL. They knew that they had no eligibility left for that year. I'm not saying, Ross, that it changes anything, just something to consider about the timing, because normally this late into someone making that decision, you would automatically think they're done.
Yeah, well, I mean,
but he has, because he missed the first 3 games. He's
exactly like it's this far late in the season because he missed multiple games to start the season. So, I mean, I'll just put it like this. I would be extremely surprised, me personally, this is my opinion. I'd be extremely surprised if he is on this team next year for a multitude of reasons. But if it did happen, it would be because we came with an even bigger number NIL to keep him here.
Yeah. How are you feeling?
Oh, man, I was in a good mood. Donovan started tonight, watched the first half. He was looking pretty good.
He was.
And then you start reading about the Colin Lacy thing. And it's like, I don't know, it's a different kind of bummer because we're not really playing for a ton this year, to be honest with you. But it just throws another wrench into the portal class, into the dysfunction that this football team has had. It's just, yeah, it's disappointing news. It's something from the kids' standpoint that I can totally understand.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you came here, obviously, NIL wise, I'm sure you're making good money, but you came here to play at a higher level and show the NFL that, hey, I'm a top 3, 4, 5 round receiver. And you got injured. You've only played 4 games. Those 4 games haven't really gone the way you've wanted to. So you've probably hurt your draft stock. And if you can get that extra year of college to try to improve it again, I can't blame the kid. You know, could it be here? Sure. Could it be somewhere else? Sure. But it's a logical decision for him, in my opinion.
I mean, it is, but we know how professional sports work, and it's all based on age and potential, right? Like
Right.
he's losing an 8, like he's losing a year.
That's
like,
tough.
like professional sports frown on older ages, like 100%. So, is it worth it?
Yeah. I'll tell you my first. I'll tell you why this hits so hard. I think for a lot of people, I see a lot of frustration on social media, a lot of frustration in our group chat. I'll tell you how I feel, and I think some people can relate to this. I'm not saying everybody feels the way I feel, but I can take a blow even in a down season when I see hope for the future. I don't want to take a blow. I'd rather us be good all the time. I'd rather us not have star receivers leaving the team. But what compounds the issue for me is when I can't look at the future and see like direction. Satterfield's last year is a good example. Like he went 7-5, and it took him making a lot of adjustments to even get there. The reason why in that year I felt a little more optimistic, despite not thinking Satterfield was the fit, was because of the 23 class he was lining up, and because of his ability, despite the coaching, his ability to use the portal, not in an overwhelmingly abundant way, but pick the right guys to use, like Brownlee and Riley and those kind of guys. He was really good at that. And so for me, in my head, I was like, the thought of having a more talented 23 class coming in was like, okay, I can, look at that. And while I still don't necessarily think he's the guy, I at least have something where I can say, well, in the future, we do have a new variable in place. So when I see us at 4-3 in a disappointing season by all accounts, and even me, when I got ripped up and down on here for predicting 7-5, I did not have us at 4-3 at this point of the season.
No.
I had us at 5-2. So even by my standards of 7-5, we're not even meeting that, in my opinion, based on where I think the schedule goes. But like, if you could point to our high school class, for example, in the 25 class and say, like, we've got all these studs coming in, we're having a down year. I still wouldn't be happy at Colin Lacy's leaving the team. I wouldn't be happy with the way this year's going, but I would see some sort of silver lining. I don't see that silver lining. Not right now. I've seen nothing but bad news all season since after the first couple of games.
Yep.
I've been worried. I mean, anybody that listens to this pod knows my thoughts on going all portal. I've been worried about it. And people pointed to people like Colin Lacy and said, that's why you do it, because you get Colin freaking Lacy, and he's going to come in here and he's going to do things that a high school guy can't do. And that argument, I mean, we've had guys from the portal that have underperformed. I know Ross predicted the offensive line issues early. I didn't think that was going to be a problem. because of the portal, I was wrong there. So even that hasn't worked out, even the things I thought would work out. But overall, I questioned the strategy of going all in on it. But I was told guys like Colin Lacy were the reason why you do it. So to have a few guys underperform compared to what we thought, like I think of like, and no, I'm not trying to call them out bad, but I thought we get more out of like Thor Griffith, for example. I thought we get more out of our offensive line. And Thor hasn't played bad. I just thought we were getting like
An
I thought
all
we were,
ACC
I
type.
thought we get first team all ACC guy. Maybe that's my fault. Maybe I misjudged his talent, but the defense being as disappointing as it is, despite being stacked on paper, and then you get stuff like the Colin Lacy thing, which again, I get why the kid's doing it. No shade towards the kid, but it's just been a tough year, man. And I don't see the hope for the future. That's my main point. Like I can't point to the 25 class other than like Mason Mims and a couple of other guys. And I know a couple of them are on the fence. I'm not going to say which players, but there's a couple of them that are wavering right now that I hope we can hold on to in that class.
Yep.
I don't know, guys. Those are my two main takeaways from it.
Yeah, I mean, there's just nothing right now. Like we're just kind of like a guy out in the ocean. Our football program is a guy out in the ocean.
I love the Ross.
Just like just treading water, big waves, no life jacket, no buoy. Like we're just kind of out there,
So we're gonna drown.
Like and it feels like we've got the chance to drown, but we're not drowning yet. But there's just nothing to grab onto. There's nothing to save us right now.
Yeah, there's no thing out there you can be like, there's an island ahead. If there is one, we don't see it.
Yep.
Well, maybe there is an island, and we certainly hope so, metaphorically speaking. But if you can't see it, eventually your mind starts to think like it's just never going to be there. So it's a scary place to be.
Yeah. Yeah. I just think, I'm right there with you, Kyle. This is like, for one, we're in the playoff era of college football. And when I say playoff era, I'm not talking about a 4-team playoff. I'm talking about this new 12-team playoff where you have hope going into the season that you can be in contention for the playoffs if you're a good team. That doesn't mean you're going to make it, but it means, hey, in the 12th week of the season, I might still have a chance. We're 7 weeks in and we have no chance. And it's a different feeling than it's been in the past, because in the past it's like, well, 4 teams, we didn't really have a chance anyway. So I just want to have a really good year, go to a good bowl, stuff like that. Now it's like 4-3. Bowls at this point, when 12 teams make the playoffs, just seem semi-pointless. And to your point, if it was like, hey, I can watch some young kids play and there's some guys I want to see with how they're going to look next year and how they'll fit into our scheme next year. But, most of our main players aren't going to be here next year. You've got Clark at linebacker, I guess. We hope he'll be back next year.
Yeah, you got to hold on to him.
Unfortunately, Johnson is injured the rest of the year. You've got Brown at running back. He's fun to watch. But a lot of these main guys are gone next year. So it's hard to get excited for the rest of the year. And I just think the portal strategy, listen, man, it worked in year 1. And it might work again. Maybe we do it again this offseason, and maybe it works in year 3. But it's not the recipe for consistent success. And it leads to this volatility. And it leads to it's just hard to get excited about every year bringing in 35 new guys and seeing how they mesh.
I didn't know how to predict this football season, even though it seems to be going about as disappointing as I thought, maybe even worse. But I really could see a situation on paper where we went 10-2. Because it was just it's just the unpredictability of bringing so many new players all the time. We're doing it with Pat Kelsey in basketball because we have to, but that's 12 players. When you're bringing in like 30 players with two sides, 35 plus players with two sides of the ball, I understand why we did it our first off season. What choice did we have? Even with the Flyville 23 class, it was a smaller class. Sat was planning on having a smaller class. By the time Brom got in there, he had to salvage that class. And then he had to do a bunch of patchwork to get his style of play and his guys in there. And I think the success of doing that was kind of like a long-term curse in a way, because I think it was seen for more than it was. And what I mean by that is we still had a lot of guys who had been in the program for multiple years, like an Ashton Gelati, a Quincy Riley, even though he transferred from Middle Tennessee State, he'd already been in there for 2 years. Brownlee. We had guys that had been in the program, Ben Perry from high school. We had a lot of guys that had, I mean, I keep rattling off names. I'm not going to do that.
Gerard Jordan.
Jordan. You had guys on the line that were, around for at least a couple of years. So I think that hitting the portal that hard and having success with that much continuity still on the roster worked. But I think they kind of like thought, well, we can just keep doing this. And it's like, no, I get why you did it to get your style of guys in there for year one. But I was really disappointed in the 24 class, even though we had guys like Isaac Brown in it, who's a beast.
Yeah.
I felt like we kind of neglected that class. And Isaac Brown's a guy, by the way, who had already been on our radar well before Brom got there. So it's kind of like, yeah, he landed them. But a lot of these guys were guys that were on our radar already, and Brom did a good job of retaining that relationship. But you've got to establish new relationships with impactful guys. And I mean, for everybody that says it's going to take 2 or 3 years to get these high school guys developed, for some of them it will. But then I can point to guys like Stan Kwan, Isaac Brown, guys like that. It doesn't take as long. I honestly think Aaron Williams, if he could ever stay healthy, would have been really good. But I guess I can't prove that one. Nonetheless, man, it is what it is now for this off season, because we're kind of it's too late for the 25 class. You might be able to get a couple of really good, impactful guys to add to the class at the end, but
maybe
you're not going to. Yeah, maybe, but you're not going to land 20 guys with a really high rating at this point. So you're going to have to do what we did again. We're going to have to go through the portal thing, land 35 or so dudes, and just hope it works out, man.
Well, and there's certain, as I've watched the portal era so far of college football, and it's not been around long, but there's certain positions that you can attack the portal for and get quality. You can usually go out and get a good receiver or two, it seems like. You can go out and usually find some running backs. You can find some quarterbacks actually in the portal. But there's certain positions that, because of the nature of the position and how it fits into a program, they're ones that I really think that you've got to build your own talent and develop your own talent. The offensive line is one of those positions. The offensive line, is a unit where the players have to be cohesive. It depends on the scheme. An offensive lineman can be really good player in one scheme and not fit into another team's scheme. And it's a position that I think you have to build through the high school ranks. And it's why it's, those stud high schoolers are so hard to get at that position, because the big time teams know it. But we're not adding big time talent through the O-line since Brom's been here, through the high school ranks at least. And I think it's hurt us this year. I think it's going to hurt us in the future. You've got to, I think the defensive line is similar. You got to get those guys from the high school ranks. Listen, in the portal era, if you've got enough money, you can go pay for anybody you want. You can go tamper, but it's just, easier to get some positions than others. And when you're adding 35 guys every year and building a whole new team, you're doing it from every position. And I just think it's hard to hit that way, man. And it's hard to establish a culture. And you get situations like ours this year where two guys bounce preseason. A guy now is I don't want to say quitting, but is sitting out the rest of the year for his future.
Mm-hmm.
You know, get those situations when you do this. And I hope that Braum is learning from it and comes up with a different strategy for the future.
So, Ross, I want to turn the page to the upcoming game. Since we're on football, since we had to lead with that because of the recent news, we have Boston College. I know before the season started, I called this a trap game, but we're both 4-3, and we're on the road. We might be an underdog. I don't know what Vegas is saying, but what do you have to see, Ross, to turn this thing around?
Well, I'd be looking for momentum, and I don't see that. I don't see momentum. It's not to say that we can't go into Chestnut Hill and win this game, because I think that even without Colin Lacy, we're the more talented team. I like some things that I saw from the defense, even though they gave up 50-something points. I would look for if I'm looking to be positive and optimistic, I would look for the defense to have a showing where they build on what we saw last week. Again, even though they gave up 50-something points, like I would look for them to build on that and maybe get after the quarterback a little more. And I mean, let's face it. I mean, we're going to need this defense to be the defense that we expected them to be all year. Like, that time is now. I saw glimpses of it last week. It just wasn't consistent. And, I think that's kind of where we're at. Like, if we're going to salvage the season, it's going to have to be the defense leading the way. So I would look for the defense to have a very, very sound game and have a very, very good game, possibly their best game of the season, if we're going to come out and look good this game.
Yeah. By the way, before I ask you about it, Pat, I see from Eric Crawford, he says while several reports say Louisville would work on a deal to have Lacy return, the source told WDRB he is expected to transfer elsewhere. We know Eric Crawford's a money source, so I know McGavick had heard that we're working on him returning and hopeful that he would. Or I don't have his quote in front of me, but it was basically that we're hopeful that he'll return, something like that.
It just doesn't.
And McGavick's a good source too, so I don't want to. Yeah. So I guess we'll see, but I'm skeptical. I guess, like you, Ross. I hope he returns, but the kid's got to do what's right for him, and it's just very risky when you're going to have several months of time elapse before a decision can be made. Seems like a long time for other programs, NFL, whatever the case is, to just get in his ear. So,
especially when they know they can get into his ear at this point. Not that would stop them, but when you announce you're sitting out, then that's like an open season to teams to contact you. If we want him back, I think you really got to convince him that you're going to utilize him better, because I don't think we've utilized him and used his strengths as a receiver so far this year, which has been detrimental to him and us. But yeah,
I just don't like. I think he's been still getting healthy, and I think like the past two games, like we've been seeing his presence starting to be felt on the football field. Like the past two games, he's starting to become more of the game plan. To me, I mean, Again, this is just me looking at everything. This to me doesn't look like this to me looks like a player that's just saying like, look, I'm not going to waste my eligibility on this thing this year for this program, and I'm moving on. I started out the season. I've I've only played 3 or 4 games. I can still salvage this season of eligibility. I can go elsewhere. Like that's what it looks like to me.
No, he wants to rebuild his stock and like has he been more impactful these last few games? Sure, but I don't and I this isn't I'm not a football expert. I'm nowhere near the offensive mind that Brian Brom, Jeff Brom are. But to me, when I saw this guy and when we got him, I said, this is a guy you run rubs and picks with. You get him the ball in space, you get him the ball over the middle of the field, and we haven't done that so far. And if I'm him and it hasn't been done, then yeah, I'm saying after 4 games, maybe either they need to convince me they're going to use me that way, or I need to go to a place that will use me that way. But in terms of the Boston College game, what I want to see, again, it's hard in this era to think that you're playing for something at 4-3. But as a football player, if I'm a football player, I still want to go out there and win. So I want to see just some resiliency from this team and that want. I want to see the sideline into it. I want to see our players on the field giving full effort because after last week, the team and the season could take a huge turn for the worse if the team starts quitting. If players start quitting, it's going to get ugly. So that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a team that still looks like it wants to play and win.
I'm just not sure we're going to see that.
Yeah. At this point, I will say offensively against Miami, I do feel like Brom called a game that looked more like what I expected him to call when he got here last year. And last year I attributed to the quarterback play and some limitations, but I was very disappointed all year until that game. But unfortunately, it's been an issue with this team, and it's been an issue with this program as a whole, is it just doesn't click on all cylinders, and you're only as strong as your weakest link. So yeah, you can go out there and call a great offensive game, but if your defense can't stop a statue or tackle it, and I mean, I don't even mean that to sound as bad as it sounds. I don't mean it to be like ridiculing, but it was bad.
Mm-hmm.
It was bad. And I mean, I'm sure they heard a lot worse from the staff throughout the week after they had to watch tape on it, or at least I certainly hope a message was sent, whether it resonates or clicks or not, I don't know. But when your defense is that bad as they were against Miami, I don't care how good of an offense Miami is. I know how good they are. People are like, well, they averaged 48 points a game. They scored 52. Yeah, but they also were playing teams like Ball State. So let's be real. It's kind of like how we dropped 62 on Austin Peay. Like, yeah, Miami's got a legit offense. They've got a Heisman candidate quarterback, a great running back. Restrepo is a great receiver. But that doesn't excuse blown coverages and the same seam route that we get beat on all the time being wide open like it was in every other game. It doesn't excuse missing 1,000,001 tackles, having a guy drag us 10 or 15 yards into the end zone, multiple defenders. Like, these are things that the confusion when they're looking over, trying to get plays. And still, even though the coach is on the sidelines now, it's not quite as bad as it was, but it's still not great. Just so many issues. It's like, Notre Dame game, I felt like the offense kind of left a lot to be desired. But then we get to games like SMU and Miami, and the defense leaves a whole lot to be desired. And it's the same thing in the program. It's like, you move on from Scott Satterfield because he wasn't a good cultural fit, and he couldn't win the games on the field, but he started to turn recruiting around. So you bring in a coach who's a better coach by all means, but I question if the staff he has around him are as good as the staff Sat had with him. And the recruiting, I mean, it speaks for itself right now. And so, like, we got to click on all cylinders. Like, I think going into this game, you've got to have a complete game. And good luck with Castellanos, because he's the exact kind of quarterback we've struggled with all year.
Is he still hurt?
I think he's back.
Yeah, no, he played last game.
I just wonder if he was still kind of hampered or not.
I don't know, but I know that they got 9 days off. We got 6.
Yeah.
It's on the road. I don't feel great about it, guys. I wish I did. It's a game we could win, like Ross said. It wouldn't necessarily surprise me, but it's certainly not something that I can go into expecting, to the point where if we did lose, I wouldn't be surprised. And I guess I could say that anyway, because I really felt like it was a trap game, even if we were undefeated going into that game. But it just seems even more so now. And I could even see a scenario, depends on what kind of team shows up, how well they're prepared, but I could see a scenario where they get out. We've lost 3 games by 7 points each. I could see a scenario where this one could get ugly if we don't have the right mindset.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, the mindset's key. The defense getting off the damn field is key. I mean, that last week was the worst 3rd and 4th down defense I think I've ever witnessed from a football team. I actually thought they won on 1st and 2nd down more than I thought they would. And then they just got totally abused on 3rd down, which as a football fan is the most frustrating thing to watch. You're sitting there in the stands and the crowd's getting pumped. It's 3rd and 7. It's 3rd and 15. And the other team gets a damn 1st down almost every time. It's disheartening, man. And I don't know, man. I'm not one to call for coaches, but they got to figure out that
you got to make some decisions at the end of the year,
man.
I think a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're in the end game, so to speak, as far as the Ron English tenure.
Macro, where you been, man? Here he is. I'm so glad, Macro. Your first comment in a long time is about 4-star, 300-pound defensive tackles. I want my wife to be as loyal to me as Macro is to us landing 300-pound 4-star defensive tackles. Because, and I'm with you, Macro, that it's the lines need high school upgrades. Still land some guys in the portal, but you need to get some really talented, high potential guys from high school, especially in the trenches, and you got to work them up, build them up. And I think a lot of it, guys, is going to take some staff moves in the offseason. We need some juice, man. We need some personality. We need some energy. I feel like some of these coaches are really good coaches, but I'm not sure if we're bringing the juice or relating to the kids as much as we should be. I don't know. I could be wrong, but I just don't see a lot of I see like an all business mentality, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that when you're winning, but when you're not and you have a talent issue, you start to kind of look like, are we really relating to these kids and what they want and what they really desire? Because you got to get with the times. And I think we're going to have to make some changes in the offseason. I hate to say it. It's a hard pod to do leading with football, but I would like to transition into basketball.
Yeah.
New coach, new era, did everything right in the offseason, got the fan base engaged, checked all the boxes, despite the fact that all of us, almost every fan initially was like, what the hell are we doing hiring this guy? Myself included. He's checked every single box. So we get the summer in the Bahamas. That went as well as you could expect it to against the competition. And then we open up with Young Harris on Monday. And, I mean, again, exhibition game, D2 team. But as we know, after the last 2 years, that is not a given.
No.
So the fact that we not only went out there and won the game, which is a start, but we actually did what we were supposed to do and looked like the clearly superior team It doesn't tell you what our ceiling is. So you can't put high expectations based on that, but it does tell you we have a much higher floor than what our last 3 teams have had. And so I don't know, Pat, when you watched that game, what were some of your bigger takeaways from what you saw out there?
I think my biggest takeaway through watching this game and the Bahamas game are he's got these guys playing with constant effort, no matter what the score is, no matter the competition. And I'm really excited to see how this translates against quality competition because these guys don't take plays off. You know, there wasn't one time Monday where I was like, man, they just took that play off. I don't think that happens. The ball movement obviously is terrific. The players seem extremely unselfish. I think the coaching staff has that modern day analytic game plan. You know, it looks like Alabama basketball, if I'm being honest with you. And Alabama basketball's fun to watch. Is there some things that can happen when you play that type of basketball? Sure, if you go cold from the outside, you know, it's going to be harder to win. But listen, this team's got shooters. It's got a bunch of hungry veteran players, and it's an unselfish team that just goes, man. And it's going to be fun. There's going to be some teams that challenge us in different ways, and I'm sure we'll get into that. But like overall, watching this team is the most fun I've had Louisville basketball wise since Rick Pitino was here. So yeah, no, I'm pumped, man.
Yeah, my biggest takeaway was like being able to watch this team and be able to see, you know, the second and third pass that was gonna happen. Like there was a semblance of a system and offense that made sense that you could see happening before it actually happened. That was a very, very beautiful thing to see. You know, again, it's young Harris and young Jeezy. You know what I mean? Like it is what it is. You know, I mean, the opponent is what it is, but like it was. We've seen it for 3 games now. The 2 games in the Bahamas and this game. The offensive system makes sense, and you can see what they're trying to do, and you can see what the future moves of the offense are. Like you can actually see an offensive system taking place, and you see the players executing it, and they see it and they understand it, and it just makes a whole hell of a lot of sense when you watch it. You know, so like that to me, that was the biggest takeaway compared to what the hell ever it was that we were watching the past 2 seasons. I mean, just a complete shit show. So that's kind of where I'm at, and I'm more than elated to sit there and I can't wait to see the next game. I mean, I really can't. Like, I'm so excited to watch this team go out there and play and play and play and play. Like, I can't wait for this season to unfold.
I have tickets to that Tennessee game. It can't get here quick enough. I'm pumped for that game. I think my biggest takeaway is the passing beyond everything else. Not the pace, not the 3-point shooting, which I believe are a direct result, both of them, of the passing. I don't think any of it connects without the passing first. The way we pass the basketball is incredible. I can't remember a Louisville basketball team. I know it's early, so maybe this will change as we play better defenses, which I'm curious. But even starting out, I can't remember, even under Rick Pitino, who was the GOAT, and, despite all of his shenanigans with UK and all the BS on the court, he is one of probably a top 5 coach of all time.
Yeah.
And you could argue the best coach ever, and he just should have stayed put. Thank God he didn't at UK. But nonetheless, it was mainly his defense and his pressure, creating turnovers and scoring off the break. It wasn't elite passing. We were good at passing, but it wasn't like this.
No.
So yeah, we're not as good on defense. I'm not even saying we're as good as those teams, but the passing is something I have not seen. Not the way we do it. I said it after the Bahamas. I still feel this way after this game. We look like one collective brain out there where every single person is connected to this collective mind. And the passing creates so many issues for opposing defenses when it's so fast. It's like you'll see 5 or 6 passes in a matter of 5 or 6 seconds sometimes. It's like a hot potato. How do you clog spacing? Like, you could tell that team, which they have a talent deficiency, their strategy was to clog the lane. But the way we pass on the perimeter isn't like most teams that pass along the perimeter. Like, we pass it cross court to where the defense has to react. And while they're reacting, a guy's cutting off of a flare screen towards the bucket. And so, you can't defend both. You can't defend a cross-court pass beautifully executed and be in position to defend a cut. You have to pick.
Yeah.
And it just seems like our players are very good at reacting to which one you're going to do. So then they'll throw it to the cutter, or you cut with them, at which point the cross-court pass leads to a wide-open 3. You're cooked either way. And if you are able to converge on the cutter, if you do decide to throw it to the cutter, well, he's already got 2 guys out there at the top, one at the top of the key, one at the side. He's going to throw it to one of them immediately. And it's just like a pinball out there. It's like if I go to take a swig of my drink, I might miss something. And another thing I noticed it's going to be really hard for teams to defend is, I think Rain Smith and Corin Johnson are the best at doing this, but on fast breaks, or just when you're pushing the ball really fast up the court, they can just stop on a dime, going full speed, and then stop on a dime behind the arc and pop a 3. Now, how do you guard that? Because if you're a defender and you see them coming towards you, especially in transition,
you're stopping the ball.
You have to take the lane, because there's like a 99.9% chance you're going to make an uncontested layup.
Yep.
Very few exceptions. So you have to take that. But when you've got 2 players like Rain and Corin who can stop on a dime and hit a 3, it's like, okay, go ahead, take that layup away. They're not going to hit a 3 every time like they would a layup, but you're also getting 3 points for 2, and that's where Pat Kelsey's analytic mind comes in. I would not be surprised, especially in Rain's case, to see them hit 50% of those stop and pops where they're in full-blown speed with the ball and they just stop on a whim. I saw Rain do it twice, and I saw Corin do it a lot over the summer. I don't know how you stop that. You get enough players that can do that, that's a skill set that creates a spacing nightmare.
Yeah, it's kind of like the evolution. If you go back and look at Denny Crum teams in the 80s and the early 90s, one thing that you would see, we would be, and it was a staple of Denny Crum teams. You would see this. It happened regularly. You would have transition basketball, and our player would be dribbling, and they would pull up at the free throw line on like a fast break, and they would drain that 2-pointer. What you're saying is like just kind of the same thing almost, in a sense. Like, you just cross that half court and there's a player right there in 3-point. like in transition. Like
you have to
I don't know
stop
how
them
you.
from getting the layups, but then you give up an open three.
Yeah,
That's
I
it,
really
yeah.
you can't the defense isn't set to defend that. Like it's not there. So like it's gonna be open if you've got guys that can make that at a really high clip, like a Rain Smith that are leaking out. I mean, that's an easy 3 points. Easy 3 points.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I did want to say it's kind of hard to find major concerns in an exhibition game where you win by 50 or whatever it was, close to 50. But there were some things I noticed, and I'm curious. I'm going to lead with this one, but I'm curious if you guys had the same takeaways. When you do the 5 out or the crashing 5 guys to the boards, whatever they call, I can't remember the term. Pat, what's that term where they hit? I don't know. All 5 of the players crash the boards at once. There's a term for it, but that's what we do.
Yeah.
But in order to execute that effectively, you have to be really good at tapping the ball and knowing where you're tapping it to. I did notice a lot of times against this team, we didn't do a very good job of that. In particular, there were 3 offensive rebounds off of missed free throws for them.
Yep.
You really shouldn't be giving up one of those a game. I mean, you're going to have a few of them every great once in a while, but you shouldn't average 1 offensive rebound off a free throw a game. We had 3. So that's a concern. And I did notice, like, I know Noah Waterman on one play had the ball and he just didn't, they tapped it out of his hands into their player's hand and they got a layup out of it. And we've got to get better at tapping the ball and being in position. I did see some ball watching when the ball would go up, where you gotta block out and be in a position to catch those tap outs, and then you've got to be able to effectively tap it out because we don't have size. We don't have like overpowering big men. And that's not the system we run. So I don't want people to get it twisted. People think, well, it's just because we lack size. We'll get size in the future. I don't think that's the game plan here. I think we want fast, quick bigs that can run the court, keep up with the pace, space the floor, and then guys like Pryor and Waterman who can also shoot it from behind the arc. You're going to give up size, but what you have to do to make up with that is when you crash the boards together, you have to put your ass into somebody, and then you have to be good at the back taps. And the other thing was the one-on-one defense in the paint. I felt like they were able to take us one-on-one and blow right past their guys sometimes. I personally think that a good way to mitigate that is help defense swiping at the ball, but not giving up your position on the perimeter. So you have to time it right. Otherwise, you're going to give up an open 3. But you have to kind of give your defender a chance to get in a better position. And by swatting at the ball, it creates a second or two where they, of course, are going to be a little out of position trying to keep you from stealing the ball. And then maybe you get the steal. I think they did a little better at that in the second half, but I know as PK said, he was less enthused about the second half defense. So that was interesting to me. And I think that had more to do with just not giving as many one-on-ones. I feel like he wanted those one-on-one opportunities instead of like somebody running wide open. But with that, I do think one-on-one with our small lineup, you have to swipe at the ball from the perimeter a little bit better and time it right.
Yeah, I mean, like, to hit on the point what you're saying, Kyle, like, I felt like the help side defense was kind of lacking. If we're nitpicking, like, the help side defense was definitely lacking. I didn't like.
I said we were nitpicking, man.
Yeah, no, I know.
Not you. I'm talking
That's
to this
what I
guy
said
here.
too. Like,
This guy here says we beat this team by 50, and we're talking about defensive concerns.
yeah,
So,
no, I
you can
mean,
always improve.
we're looking for things that translate into the regular season. So, like,
You better believe the staff is pointing these things out.
yeah, I mean,
Gotta stay
absolutely, and
hungry.
they best damn better be. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like,
You
that's
never
what
tell
they
a
were
team
hired
you're
for.
perfect. You have nothing to
So,
improve.
the help side defense was left something to be desired, as well as the help defense at the rim. Yeah, we're not built to be like some big physical imposing team at the rim, but there's certain things about basketball like that are universal that have to happen, and you have to have a team that is willing to wall up and take pride in defending the rim. I didn't see that Monday night against Young Harris. On the other side of the ball, if we're nitpicking, I'm curious to see how we react to teams making us put the ball on the floor.
Yeah, Pryor had some trouble with that.
Yeah.
I think he should have passed a little more.
I thought that we looked a little bit shaky putting the ball on the ground, putting the ball on the floor at times. And if you're looking at a team that shoots and exploits the three the way that we do, teams are going to close out on us and they're going to make you drive the ball. And I would be remiss if I didn't think that we didn't look 100% capable in that area right now. It's early in the season. Again, we're nitpicking.
Yeah.
But those are my two things. If I'm looking at this team, I'm looking at rim defense, and I'm looking at the ability to put the ball on the floor and drive without turning the ball over.
Yeah.
I share your guys' thoughts. I thought rebounding wise, I thought the hustles there. I didn't see a bunch of fundamental rebounding though, which you kind of alluded to, Kyle. There wasn't, our box outs weren't, fundamentally sound. I didn't see a lot of guys attacking the boards in that way. I think when you talk about one-on-one defense, especially in the post, my most concerning thing is you're playing a team that doesn't have a ton of size. And I thought our big guys were moved pretty easily off their spots defensively, which concerns me when we play, in Indiana with their low post presence. And when you play these teams that are going to have dominant big men, I worry about our ability to get these guys off their spots and not have easy buckets on the offensive end.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like Omar Ballo, for example. You're going to have to help, but you're going to have to be in a position. You're going to have to coach them before that game to be in a position to reach in, but not give up their perimeter stance. It's difficult. It's easier said than done. Easy for me to sit here and say it, but that's the kind of situations we're going to find ourselves in a lot this year. And then you're going to have to crash 5. I think it's called crash 5. I don't remember what it's called.
I think it's crash 5.
Yeah, we'll go with crash 5. But it's where when the ball goes up, all 5 of your guys run in there, but you got to put your ass on somebody.
Yeah.
I felt like we ball watched a little bit, but overall, man, I want to caveat. That's just things I saw that we could improve. Doesn't mean that we didn't like what we saw. Loved what we saw. Great exhibition. Couldn't expect too much more other than those little things. And another thing I said, that kind of goes along with the passing that I meant to bring up is I love our shot selection overall. I saw maybe 3 bad shots the entire game, like maybe 3.
One of them was a heat check from Edwards after he had hit.
Yes, one of them was a heat check. One of them was a prior 3 that I felt like he had pretty contested, and there was another one, but I can't even remember who shot that other. It might have been Corn. I don't remember, but it was a really the shot selection, just like it was in the Bahamas. We don't take many bad shots. I can deal with us missing shots that are wide open from guys who, like when Rain Smith went on a cold streak in the Bahamas, especially in game 1.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, that's going to happen. Keep shooting the ball, which he did. And that shows his fortitude and his confidence. Traore, that's who it was. It wasn't Corn. It was Traore. Actually, he had a couple of them that he's just not known to be a 3-point shooter, but he had that step back in the corner going out of bounds, and he threw that up. But the fact that I can like single out like, hey, this one time or this time, that just means it's very limited, because in many years in the past, especially the last couple of years, I could give you an example of a time, but I couldn't point out all the times we took a bad shot. I can point them out because they don't happen a lot. They happen sparingly. We take very good shots for the most part, wide open shots. And if they contest the lane, we do a good job of getting into the lane, and we either put it up because we have a good shot close to the rim, or we kick it back out. And then we cut, and they either go with the cutter and you shoot the three, or they contest the three and you get a pretty uncontested. It's a beautiful offense. Flare screens galore, ghost action towards the rim. I love it. The passing and the shot selection is incredible. The pace is just
I think something we haven't talked about too, and it all goes in with this. I mean, this all plays off of each other, but the spacing is elite, man.
Yes.
Like I've never watched a Louisville team that spaces the floor the way we do and can recover that space. Like we fill in the space, and you never see two guys other than when we're setting picks, you never see two guys, in the same spot causing spacing issues. It's incredible, man.
It's very good. Curious going forward as the competition gets better. Like this season can't get here quick enough, man.
Agreed.
Like I feel like that Moorhead game is forever away.
Yeah. I've never been more, in my 30 plus years. I mean, I can remember games, I think, when I was like 3 or 4, but I can really remember games when I was like 5, 6 years old. Mm-hmm. And in my 30 years of watching Louisville basketball, I don't think I've ever been, except for maybe Bettino's first year, I've never been this excited to see how this translates against quality competition.
Yeah.
Like that anticipation for that first big game, I'm excited for the Moorhead State game too, obviously, but that first big game versus Tennessee, I've already got butterflies thinking about it, man.
Anthony asks, he knows he plays exhibition teams, but do me and you agree that this is a tournament team? I think it could be. I absolutely think it should be. My only hesitancy, of course, you can't predict injuries. We have a thinner roster with the style of play that we play than I would like, with only 11 guys. So you really can't afford any injuries. But health is important, obviously. But then when I look at the schedule, it makes me nervous, because on paper we should be afforded the opportunity to lose more and make the tournament than other teams with similar records. But we know, and this is not conspiracy, I can point to like 4 different years. We know how the tournament selection committee views Louisville, and it's just not good. And until we get rightfully selected in those kind of years, I'm not going to believe for a second. Like I could see them, like, let's just throw out a team like Washington. Louisville finishes 19-13. Washington finishes 19-13. Our strength of schedule is through the roof. Theirs isn't. Washington gets in. We're the first team that's left out. Absolutely could see that crap. I actually thought St. John's got pretty screwed last year. I could see them doing that to us. So that makes me nervous, because I could see us taking some lumps with this schedule and losing more games than we normally would. Like if we had last year's schedule, oh my God, like I think we'd probably win 23, 24 games.
Yep.
I think it's going to be closer to that 20 win mark, 19-21. So 21, I think, would get us there. But if we win 18 or 19 games, I don't think we're going to get in. And it's because of the way. It's not because we shouldn't. It's not because our schedule won't be good. It's because we've been screwed like that freaking year that Mitch Barnhart, which is he still running that crap? Because if he's still
I
running
think
it,
he's off of it now, but I think last year was his last year or something.
good. Because if he was running, I'd say we have to go 32-0.
Yeah.
I mean, my God. But like, because that one year we were a shoe-in and they left us out with him involved.
I've
And,
never
I mean,
been more pissed in my life, man.
that year in 2005, we were clear either like the last two number 1 seeds or early 2, a high 2, a low 1 or a high 2 seed. And they put us as a low 4.
Yeah.
And we ended up in the final 4 anyway.
And then the year after the championship year, they gave us a shit seed, in my opinion, too.
Yep. So we know we're not going to get that. So that's my only hesitancy is we're going to have to win. See, Anthony says he's optimistic. He thinks we can win 23, 24 games. I think we can. I'm just, with our schedule, I need to see how we look against Morehead State and Tennessee. I just need to see it against, like, I need to see how we look. Because, I mean, like I said, those inside concerns when we play Adu and we play Omar Ballo. And I'll know more after, I guess, going into after the Bahamas. I'll be able to give you a clear answer on if I think we'll make the tournament. Yeah. I think we're going to have to win that many, though, 23 to 24 games to be definitely in.
Yep. Yeah, I think, I mean, I'm going to echo a lot of the same things, but it goes back to what I said earlier. I want to see how this translates against quality competition. I'm really excited about this team, as I've said. I see the talent. It's got the key, it's got those key things you need from a tournament team. It's got veteran leadership. Obviously, the whole group, for the most part, are veteran guys. It's got a hungry coach, and there's a lot of talent out there. But I want to see what we do against similar talent. I think the schedule presents a lot of opportunities when you're talking about, like, if I'm the tournament committee, there's a lot of opportunities for us to have quad 1 wins. You're going to, our quad 1, if I had to guess looking at our schedule, we're going to play over 10 quad 1 games this year easily. So that gives you a little bit of leeway. But like Kyle said, man, it's just,
they don't give us any. They will literally look past our strength of schedule and go, well, we just know. They'll have some BS reason that we know is BS.
Well, and I think the fact that we've been so bad the past 2 years can hurt us when it comes to, if we're on that bubble. I think that can hurt us. It shouldn't hurt us, but I think it will. So yeah, I mean, like, if I was giving you percentage odds right now, I'd say, like, I'd give us like 60% to make.
That's exactly what I was going to say. 60%.
But that could go way up after, I think, Tennessee, Bahamas, and how, and the end result of those, win or loss, isn't going to be as big to me as just how we play translates against quality competition, man.
Yeah.
Because I think this is going to be, I mean, even though this team seems to be a really close-knit group that, like, it's ahead of schedule, I think it's going to be a team that gets better as you go into January and February. So I just want to see how we play early in the year before I'm like, yeah, this is definitely a tournament team.
Yeah, and that's a rational reason. So I think Ross had to take care. He said his animals were out of control. I don't know. Maybe Ross moved to a livestock farm, but I know he's got that cat that likes to talk. So I don't know what's going on, but I don't think he's going to end up being back on. So I did want to say I appreciate you guys being on tonight. If you're new to the channel, please like and subscribe. If you joined us late, feel free to go back and listen to us at the beginning. We talked about Colin Lacy, that whole situation, the trajectory of the football program, and what we need to do against Boston College. And then, of course, we talked a lot about Louisville basketball and how impressive we look thus far. So that being said, Pat, do you have any final words?
You know, it's kind of like I got the angel on this side, which is Louisville basketball, telling me to be happy and
Yeah.
go about my day in a positive way, and then I've got the devil on this side, which is Louisville football, which is telling me to, you know, be depressed and
And it was the polar opposite
bad.
in Brahms' first off season,
Yeah.
leading into his first season. It was all about football. It was all about how well he looked, all about the potential, all about him getting that 23 class lined up, a good portal haul, a good combination of the two. And then basketball was another year of Kenny Payne. So it was like the opposite.
Yeah.
So now we just flipped the script, but
Yeah.
hopefully we have a similar result in basketball as we did our first year in football. I liked last year in football. I didn't like how it ended, which is what it is, but overall, good year. So
It was a good year.
getting both these programs on the same page would be really nice. But
Yeah. No, I agree.
takes
But
time and patience. I don't have patience. That's
I
my
want to. Yeah, I mean, I don't have patience to get to basketball season. I wish we could, like, no offense to Spalding, but I wish we could fast forward to not next Monday, but the next Monday, because I just want to feel that regular season feeling. But I'm pumped for basketball season, and I'm hoping from a football standpoint, for the sake of the future, I hope our team looks bought in on Friday, and I hope we come away with a win. Listen, man, the ACC is out of the picture. The playoffs are out of the picture. But if this team can finish strong, obviously high school recruiting isn't going the way I'd like it to go. But if this team can finish strong, I think it keeps people putting money into the program. It keeps the positive vibe going forward for portal season, and it can help catapult us to next year in not the way that I was looking forward to, with more high school blue chips, but if people see you win 8-9 games, they still want to come to your program out of the transfer portal. So I'm hoping this Friday looks like a team that still wants to go out there and put together a good but not great season.
Absolutely. I echo your sentiments. I appreciate everybody being on tonight for another episode of Third Banner Pod. Like I said, feel free to re-listen, rewind it back if you need to. Like and subscribe if you're new to the channel. Provide us some feedback. Either way, constructive criticism we always appreciate, so long as you're respectful. Until next time, guys, thank you all for watching another episode of the Third Banner Pod. Ty should be on Friday. I'm not sure who's going to be on with him yet, but I haven't heard anything otherwise. So
I think we got the game Friday, so I think we might do a post game.
A post game. Oh, yeah, you're
I
right.
was talking about last week.
So. Yeah, you're right. Post game. So that would make more sense. Anyway, guys, thank you all for tuning in. Till next time, L's up, go Cards.